was about the size of a compact automobile. It was very small.
Huh.
And they puttered across out of the hangar, and we watched them. We stepped down the same steps from the stage level to the floor level there within the hangar, and we allowed their ship to go out to the tarmac, so we followed it about 100, 200 feet behind them. And then the engineer standing on my right said to me, "Now watch this, Andy." And the Martians took their ship in a big circle on the tarmac and then took off horizontally and then vertically, going from like 40 miles per hour to, I would say, 4,000 and then 8,000 and 12,000 miles per hour in the blink of an eye. It was the most remarkable technical feat I've ever seen, even as someone who teleported for DARPA. So I do know that I can confirm that not only are there humanoids on Mars because I've published pictures of them that have resulted from my own photo analysis of pictures from Mars photographed by NASA and the European Space Agency, but because I met 3 of those essentially human Martians at Curtiss Wright in 1970.
Wow.
But then we also have the fact that there are more ET-like humanoids that also coexist on Mars with that race of humanoids, and there are pictures of some of those beings in my papers. So we have now both direct eyewitness testimony that I'm providing and photographic evidence from the world's leading space agencies of these humanoid species on Mars. And I think that now that we have direct evidence that the planet that every 2 years comes closest to our planet, that is essentially our neighboring planet, that we have to begin the dialogue in law and policy to determine what we're going to do about that fact. How are we going to interact even more extensively with that civilization? How are we going to visit Mars and protect its environment? These are all discussions that we haven't held on Earth, and we need to start holding. And that's another reason why.
We've hardly been able to have the discussion about how we're going to protect our own planet.
Exactly, and here we have a situation where we're affecting the civilization and the environment of a neighboring planet, and we don't even have a consensus as a people on this planet that we're interacting with a neighboring planet. And I consider that a very dangerous situation to be in. I'm calling for full disclosure of the Martian presence on Earth and the Earthian presence on Mars. And I'm also going to be calling for distinguished public servants who are aware of what Project Pegasus achieved to come forward and join me in a press conference at the National Press Club to reveal what they know about the secret teleportation capability that the U.S. government achieved over 40 years ago. And those individuals
and what do they have today? If they had that 40 years ago, as we know that they've got just about everything imaginable. It boggles the mind what kind of technology has sped through the quantum foam and is here and accessible without our knowledge.
Absolutely, and because we know they had, and I participated in, and others are now coming forward. Project Camelot has interviewed Arthur Newman about his teleportations to Mars for the National Security Agency. So there are other whistleblowers besides myself now coming forward to describe the fact.
What you're saying is backing up what Richard Hoagland and Mike Barra have been discussing about NASA. Trying to get the information out that there are not only artifacts, but there are actual constructions on Mars.
Absolutely. I feel so cosmically privileged not only to be able to be an individual, principally associated with the public revelation of what's on Mars, but also to stand on the shoulders of giants like Dick Hoagland and Mike Barra, who have been working for 30 years to articulate the fact that there are artificial structures on Mars. There's really a rich history in this area. This is really a tradition that goes all the way back to Schiaparelli and Lowell at the end of the 19th century. We now have over 100 years of a tradition in natural history and science that now convincingly establishes that Mars is inhabited. And we have to start figuring out what we're going to do about that more intelligently.
Absolutely. And to start taking it seriously and not treat all of this as something to laugh at or poo-poo or discard completely. We need to start opening our minds to what is so that we can, move forward, because this is one of those turning points in our evolution, in humanity's evolution, that happens, only so often, maybe every 26,000 years. So
I would say that's true. I look at it as, I think if that we don't do the right thing about Mars, if we don't engage another inhabited planet correctly, we're not going to pass our final examination of cosmic citizenship. How can we say that we have a right to explore, to travel to and explore distant star systems if we don't even do the right thing regarding one of our celestial neighbors? So Mars is a critical test case. If we can construct the most intelligent, efficacious regime in law and policy to really show concern and protect the civilization and ecology of Mars as we begin visiting it more extensively, then perhaps we'll have a right to go on and explore the cosmos, but not before then.
Well, Andrew, can I ask you this question? Aren't there some pretty self-interested forces that are trying to keep all of this suppressed and use it for their own benefits?
I think there are. Clearly, the permanent secret government, what you might describe as the military-industrial intelligence complex, what you might describe as the intelligence community, still has a policy of concealing these technologies and the secret space program that they gave rise to. I was going to say that I'm going to be calling for 2 Project Pegasus principals to now step forward and join me in revealing the fact that teleportation was achieved over 40 years ago. And I'm going to do it in a bipartisan manner. I'm going to ask a prominent Republican public servant and a prominent Democrat public servant to step forward. And that would be Donald Rumsfeld, who twice served our nation as defense secretary, who was the defense attaché. He was the point man between the Pentagon and the project principals on Project Pegasus. We shared many lunches and dinners with Don when my father and I were on the project. We held him in high regard, and I'm going to be calling on him to step forward at a minimum to reveal the teleportation technology so that we can use it to advantage all of humanity. I'm also going to be calling on Governor Bill Richardson of New Mexico, who served as a young staffer on the project. Bill was doing the head count when we began teleporting as a group of children to the Santa Fe State Capitol grounds in the summer of 1970. He also was held in very high esteem by the project. In fact, the project had determined, using its quantum access capability, that Donald Rumsfeld was destined to be defense secretary and that Bill Richardson was destined to be governor of the very state where most of the project activities were occurring in. So I think they should be proud of what was accomplished in that project, and I think that they are intelligent and conscientious individuals who will now see the value of standing tall with me and coming forward and acknowledging that while this technology maybe had to remain secret during the Cold War, the Cold War is over, and now we have to go about the activities in progressive technical development to prepare the world for the 21st century. And so I'm going to be calling that publicly in coming months.
Well, now, what about that's a wonderful thing, Andrew. I can't thank you enough for your courage in doing this. What about the other countries who have perhaps similar programs that are also concealed at this time? I guess we can't worry about that.
Well, I know that if their programs exist, the United States is certainly ahead of them. When I was a child on the project, and my dad and I went to Curtis Wright, where he took possession of some sensitive military plans that a military attaché there at Curtis Wright handed to him. We jumped from mid-November of 71 to the beginning of summer of 73. And I asked my dad what was in the mailing tube, and he said, sensitive military plans or secrets. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, weapon systems. And I said, what's that? And he said, schematics to some of our intercontinental ballistic missiles. So in fact, the United States government won the Cold War by storing its secrets, not just in deep underground military bases in New Mexico, but deep underground military bases in New Mexico several years in the future. And it was in the context of those discussions that I said to my dad, I asked him, why are we doing that? And he said, to stay 2 steps ahead of the Soviets. So certainly when I was a child on the project, the United States government was several steps ahead of the former USSR. I did not hear of advances in this area by any other country, certainly none of the shop talk at the restaurant and bar level in Albuquerque. ever involve discussions of the Chinese or any other country having these technologies. And I can also say that ultimately the governmental body that was in possession of these secrets really wasn't even the U.S. government. It was the Vatican, because it was the Vatican that had sponsored Project Pegasus and other projects like it.
Really?
When my dad asked me to apply to Annapolis when I was in high school, he explained that Project Pegasus and a number of advanced research and development projects like it were ultimately commissioned by the Vatican. So I think that's how we should view it historically, is are we going to inveigh upon even Pope Benedict XVI himself? You know, I've been thinking about asking to have a papal audience and ask him to help liberate these two technologies to advantage the human race. One, to solve our transportation problems and remove all those pollutants from transportation. The other, to focus on very positive things that have happened in human history. You know, think of how inspired you are when you see, let's say, Dr. King giving the "I Have a Dream" speech.
Well,
we can be inspired by that because we can view it. Well, what about the events in human history, like, let's say, the signing of the U.S. Constitution or Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address? We can only read about those great events in history.
Right.
But if we had Monovision, you know, if we had a protectorate under the United States government or the UN, and you had a protectorate that did not invade people's privacy, but went back and captured critical, you know, key inspiring moments in history, imagine the positive impact that would have on civilization.
Wow.
So I think that's the historical or political context in which we have to view the development of these technologies. They were originally commissioned by the Vatican, and the United States government was far in advance of any other national government at the time of their emergence. Presumably still is.
This is amazing information, Andrew. I must say you are one of the most interesting guests I've ever had on my show.
Well, thank you.
And you know, we've literally run out of time. It feels like we've been chatting for a second or two. I could just ask you questions all night long. So I hope that you'll be willing to come back again and continue this discussion so that we can help bring this information to light and maybe help make your dream come true.
Well, I certainly would be happy and honored to come back and just tell me what day you'd like to have a conversation again. I'll be happy to appear on your show again. I would like to point out to your listeners that my paper, The Discovery of Life on Mars, it's related to the time travel experiences that I've just described, in the sense that I was permitted to read that paper in 1971 as a result of the U.S. government having it. And so your listeners can read that paper and about 40 other research papers about life on Mars that I've published at www.exopolitics.com, and also on Facebook. I started a Facebook group called The Discovery of Life on Mars. So I would invite your listeners to get onto Facebook and join that group.
And what's the name of that?
That is all under the heading of The Discovery of Life on Mars. It's actually a group where individuals who support the Mars Anomaly Research Society that I founded and am the president of, they can follow our activities, our research activities at Mars, because I've posted links to all the papers at Exopolitics there.
Wonderful.
So that's a way to just shoot right through to the Mars material. I'd definitely like to come back and...
Yes.
Are you there? I would definitely also like to come back and...
We're going to have to sign off real quickly.
Oh, okay. Well, in any case, that's where my Mars writings are, and they'll see that I've also started to reveal information about Pegasus in that context. So I would urge your listeners to join Facebook and join both my personal Facebook site and then the Discovery of Life on Mars.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Andrew, for being on the show. I will have you back very soon. And thank you for your courage and for sharing such a powerful information with the listeners.
Well, thank you for having me, Lance. I look forward to being on your show in the near future.
Absolutely. It's been a great pleasure. And thanks to the listeners, and good night, everybody, and have a great evening. Bye-bye.